Welcome back, House of the Dragon fans. Excuse the lateness with this episode 9 review of The Green Council. I was out of town last week covering the Deontay Wilder comeback fight. So a little bit behind with this review. You're going to be getting this one back to back with the series finale, which I will be watching shortly, but I definitely wanted to make sure that I hit you guys with my thoughts on episode 9. So, King Viserys, love this time. Great actor with Patty, the role, but he's out of the way now, and I think this really cleared the pathway for us to start looking at a lot of the younger characters, like Aemon, Aegon, Lucerys, and it really kind of opens up the picture now for the inevitable warfare to come. So one of the things we first learn is that what Otto said before about how much he trusted Alicent now, that now he knows she has the guts or the backbone to really do what's necessary to protect her children and secure the crown for Rhaenyra. We found out that really he was lying to her. It was all lies because as soon as Viserys passes away, we find out that he's been scheming behind her back with the majority of the council, including Lord Lannister and a few other people, to usurp the crown, and now that the king is gone, this allows them to put their plans and their schemes into place. Never told Alicent anything about this and basically use her as a proxy, so to speak. And she's finally realizing kind of her where she stands on the totem pole. And it's very sombering to realize that. And she knows now that really she doesn't have any authority on her own. Everything is through the men in her life, and they're all using her to different degrees. She's realizing that with her father, and then probably the worst example of that is what she saw with Lares, the person that we thought was in her corner and everything. And I mentioned before, I kind of got the idea that he was a little sweet on her a couple episodes before and had a kind of a low-key obsession with her. But we didn't know it went this far. Essentially we got an OnlyFans episode with Alicent. I guess she kind of got off easy having to just show her feet and some of her legs. But we saw how disgusted she was by that, having to engage in that and having to do this just to get information. A man wouldn't have to go through this. So she's realizing more and more the fact that she's a woman and the position that she's in, she really has no true power and that she's constantly being, manipulated and dehumanized based on her gender. So very unfortunate to see that. But it did result in probably one of my favorite scenes of hers when she's pleading with Rhaenys to try and get her on her side. She's appealing to the whole idea that we're women, we need to stick together. I know what you went through, being that you were the queen that never was. You see how Rhaenyra's side has been treating you. You saw what happened to your daughter Baela. She died alone and by herself and isolated. We saw what happened to your son. Not only was he killed, he was cuckolded and embarrassed before then at his own wedding. You've been abandoned by your husband. He's all fighting this constant war with no end in sight. You've been left alone. I can be your ally. I can be here for you so we can try and consolidate power. No, we cannot outwardly rule just because of how patriarchal and chauvinistic society is, but we can still rule in the background. We can still rule in the shadows and prevent this kingdom from destroying itself. And nothing that she said was wrong. That's what made this scene so great to me is that everything that Allison said was true, but also everything that Rainey said in response was true. She told Allison that, for everything that you're saying, I realize you're wiser than what I thought you were, but you're still just trying to create more comfort in the prison that you're in. And the prison that you're in is this chauvinist society that's not giving you a chance to show your true leadership. From your childhood, you were manipulated by your father and put into position to be where you are now with no say so. So Rainey's had to make a decision, and she took her emotion out of it, which is smart. And, I think Rainey is one of the smarter characters on the show. It's kind of deciding who am I safer with? Am I going to be safer and survive with Allison's side? or am I going to be safer with Rhaenyra? Now, I have no love lost for Rhaenyra. She was on the borderline of, burying Rhaenyra in that council meeting before Viserys showed up. So we know if she had any opportunity to stick it to Rhaenyra, she would. But compare that to what Alicent has. I think she realized that Alicent's house is divided, between her and Otto. They're not on the same page. And if you're going to usurp the crown and basically start open warfare, there can't be any dissension in the ranks. So I think Rhaenys realized immediately between Daemon and Rhaenyra and everybody on that side, it's at least going to be a unified front, which gives me the best chance for survival going forward. Not just survival on my end, but also the survival of my daughters, who are my blood and who are united by marriage with Rhaenyra's side. So I think that clicked in her head and said, I need to stick with Rhaenyra. Even though I have my personal issues with her, the things with Allison are just too combustible. And I think, and that was true. Everything that Rainey said was true. So that's what made it so great is that there's really no outwardly right or wrong side. Every side has its benefits and flaws, and I think Rainey's kind of made the safer bet on how she can not only survive herself, but also House Velaryon. And that led to the big, big scene of Rainey's and her dragon Maylee's exploding from the pit. Love that scene. Love Maylee's giving them a full frontal of dragon breath, but I feel like Rainey's made her one big mistake of the episode. When you have an advantage like that, you have to seal the deal. I mean, it was a nice display of power. She had her armor on, but there was no reason why she shouldn't have, roasted everybody on that throne stage. That ends the war right there. That prevents further bloodshed. And then Rhaenyra comes in and picks up the pieces. Now, I of course heard the post episode commentary from the producers and the writers stating that internally, Rhaenys could not bring herself to kill Alicent among them because, just from a womanist and the feminist perspective, she was probably looking at it like, I know where you're coming from, Alicent. I was you decades ago. And I know that everything that you're dealing with is not of your own doing. So I'm going to show you mercy because I realize you're kind of a pawn in the bigger game and that you really had no say so in getting in this position. I think that was what Rainey's was feeling, but the hell with all that. If you're about survival and winning, no. I feel like this is going to be a big costly mistake. I don't know if it's going to cost Rainey's her life, but when warfare happens, we know there's going to be losses on both sides. So there's going to be unnecessary death and anguish to come in season two because Rainey's did not make the decision to end the war. And that kind of just shows maybe because, there really hasn't been any open warfare in Westeros, I think for what, decades upon decades, they mentioned Viserys as, his nickname was the Peaceful. So for the majority of his reign, even though there's fighting, in the free cities across the sea, there hasn't really been any warfare in Westeros. So I think everybody's kind of gotten soft, and I think, Rhaenys did not realize how big of a mistake this was not doing this. So I think that was like her only big mistake of this episode, kind of just feeling too much sisterhood with Alicent. I mean, you heard her offer, you realized it wasn't for you. She should have sealed the deal and just burned all of them alive. As bad as that sounds, that was the best way to prevent the war that we're going to see to come. But of course, for storyline wise, we want to see that war. So I think maybe in, in a roundabout way, I should be thanking Rainey's for making that mistake. Going back to Alicent, I mentioned her OnlyFans episode with Lares. I really felt for her. She is getting pulled in so many different directions, not to mention her son Aegon, which she has to know deep down he is not worthy to rule. But she's sticking with what she heard Viserys said in that interpretation. She feels she has to stick with that. And let me say something about Aegon. Obviously he knows himself he's not fit to rule, but I thought his ascension was a good example of how power can corrupt you almost immediately. We saw that in real time. As soon as he got that crown on his head and he saw the applause from all the common folk, you literally see all the trepidation kind of leave his face. He's second by second basking in that glow of power and admiration that comes with the crown. So I think I don't know if he's going to grow into the sadistic Joffrey we got from the original Game of Thrones, but I see him as definitely being an exceptionally cruel character now that he has all that power and that disposal at his disposal. And I think Alicent is going to realize very quickly that she's not going to be able to control him. And Otto's probably going to realize that too. So that is something to keep an eye on. The other thing to keep an eye on, no pun intended, would be Aemon. The way he was looking at his brother, he realizes that his brother, he should be in that position. He's the warrior, he's the great fighter, he's the one that knows all the politics, knows how to negotiate. And here is his drunken, rapist brother that gets to be on the throne. So I say all that to say, we might not be done with the usurping. Maybe it's possible that in season two, Aemon might start, putting the mechanisms in play to get his seat on the throne. Because you remember when they were searching for Aegon, he mentions his frustration to Kriston, and Kriston told him that I understand how it feels to want something and to not be appreciated. So he might already have a conspirator on his side in Kriston if it goes down like that in season two. So, with all that said, let's look at the finale. I haven't gotten to that yet. I know it's leaked. I stayed away from all the rumors, but I want to, well, not the rumors, the spoilers, but I do want to speculate on who I think might be in danger of dying because obviously, with season finales, there's probably going to be some deaths or some shocking moments. So, as far as who I think is most in danger, I'll start on the green side. Not too many people because they took a big loss, having Akon's coronation upstage. So I don't think they're going to take another loss in the finale. I think the finale is going to be kind of their get back, kind of their revenge, where they take the offensive against the blacks, which would be Rhaenyra's side. But as far as anybody that might be in danger, I think maybe Kriston, if he goes on another mission, I can see him getting in a confrontation with Daemon and potentially being on the wrong end of that. Lord Westerling, who in episode 9 he gave up his status as the leader of the Gold Cloaks. I can see him kind of out there, and them not letting him sit there as kind of a neutral person because that makes him too dangerous. So I could see the Greens potentially going after him. Um, no one else really on the green side that I think is in danger. Well, maybe between was it Eric and Arik, you can't really tell them apart. I think both of them really don't seem keen on being on the green side. But if one of them, I guess the one that got disarmed by Kriston, if he goes over to the green side, I can see him maybe going on another mission and possibly dying. On the black side, I don't think Rhaenyra, I don't think Daemon, I don't think any of them are in danger. I think the main people that would be in danger would be the daughters. Baela's daughter, was it Baela? Laena's daughters, Laena and Daemon's two daughters. I think they can be in danger simply because if I'm taking Alicent's approach of not wanting to murder, not wanting to flat out murder Rhaenyra and Daemon, my next course of action would not just be trying to lay out terms, but maybe trying to kidnap one of those daughters and having them as a hostage of the state. That might prevent Rhaenyra from storming the capital and keep her at bay. Even though they lost the dragon of Rhaenys, potentially having those daughters a hostage may be able to save the Greens from open warfare, at least initially. And I feel like by doing that or attempting to kidnap them, maybe that results in one of the daughters dying accidentally. So I can see that potentially happening. Uh, Maybe also the children that got into it with Aegon and Aemon. So that it wouldn't be Joffrey because I know he's too young. I think it's just Jaehaerys and Lucerys, the ones that got into the fight in the last episode at the feast. The reason why I think they're so much in danger is because literally they can't fight, and that's a big liability. We know Aemon is kind of a master swordsman. He's been trained by Kriston. So if there's any type of confrontation, I think they are not equipped to handle that. So, if any of the soldiers storm Rhaenyra's castle where they try and go on the offensive, I think they're in danger the most. So potentially between one of those two, I could see them possibly dying, trying to protect their mother or something along those lines. I can see that happening. So those are the only deaths that I can see potentially for the finale. I do think the Greens are going to go on the offensive. So if somebody does die, I don't see it really on their end, just by the fact that they got embarrassed so badly at the end of episode 9. I know the writers kind of want to keep things balanced heading into season 2, which I think might be 2 years away from now. So I'm definitely going to be reading Fire and Blood. If you already haven't, guessed it, I have not read it. I've held out until the end of the season. So after the season finale at the end of today, I am definitely going to be checking so I can be up to date of everything that may potentially happen in season 2. So if you are also like me that's been behind, let me know what you think about episode 9, The Green Council. And within a couple hours or by early Monday at the latest, I'll have my recap on the season finale, episode 10, which I know is already out there. So let me know what you guys think. Have you enjoyed the season so far? If you like the content, of course, like and subscribe. And looking forward to talking with you about this episode and also the season finale tonight. Thanks a lot and talk to you guys soon.